The woman in the elegant burgundy dress wasn't supposed to be there. 3 months ago, she'd been sleeping under a highway overpass. Now she was turning heads at my ex-wife's wedding, her infectious laugh drawing everyone's attention as she charmed the groom's father on the dance floor. I caught my ex-wife staring, her perfect day momentarily forgotten as she tried to place where she might have seen this mysterious woman before. She hadn't. No one had. Except for me and my 8-year-old daughter, who squeezed my hand and whispered, "Dad, I told you Mia would be amazing." If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more unexpected tales of connection and second chances. Your support means everything. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, sandwiched between a past-due electric bill and a flyer for pizza delivery. I almost threw it away without opening it, but the cream-colored envelope with its elegant calligraphy caught my daughter Lily's attention. "What's that, Dad?" she asked, peering over my shoulder as I reluctantly slid my finger under the seal. The card inside was just as elegant as the envelope, thick cardstock with gold embossing announcing the wedding of Rebecca Mitchell and James Harrington. My ex-wife was getting remarried, and for some reason, she'd invited me to witness it. "It's an invitation to your mom's wedding," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Rebecca and I had been divorced for 3 years, and while we'd managed to establish a civil co-parenting relationship, I couldn't imagine why she'd want me at her wedding. Lily's eyes widened. "Can we go? Please, Dad? I want to see Mom in her dress." I hesitated. The thought of watching Rebecca marry someone else made my stomach twist, but I couldn't deny the excitement in Lily's eyes. She'd been shuttled between our homes since she was 5, accepting the reality of our separation with a resilience that sometimes broke my heart. "We'll see," I said, tucking the invitation into my pocket. "I'll talk to your mom about it." That night, after Lily was asleep, I called Rebecca. "Why did you invite me?" I asked without preamble. Rebecca sighed. "James thought it would be good for Lily to see that we can all be adults about this. And honestly, Ethan, I agree with him. We're going to be in each other's lives forever because of Lily. It would be nice if we could all be friendly." Friendly. The word hung between us, loaded with the weight of our failed marriage and the years of hurt that followed. "And you're okay with me being there? On your wedding day?" "I am," she said, and I believed her. Rebecca had always been better at moving on than I was. "Besides, Lily would love it. She talks about you all the time when she's here, you know. She's so proud of you." The compliment caught me off guard. "I'll think about it," I promised. After we hung up, I sat on my worn couch in the small apartment I'd moved into after the divorce. The place was a far cry from the suburban home Rebecca and I had shared, but it was all I could afford on my teacher's salary. I'd given up a promising career in finance to pursue my passion for teaching high school history, a decision that had contributed to the strain in our marriage. Rebecca had stayed in our old house, her job as a marketing executive more than covering the mortgage. She'd always been ambitious, focused on climbing the corporate ladder. James, her fiancé, was a corporate attorney she'd met through work. They made sense together in a way Rebecca and I never had. I pulled out the invitation again, running my thumb over the embossed letters. The wedding was 6 weeks away. The card specified Ethan Mitchell and guest. And guest. As if I'd have someone to bring. Dating hadn't exactly been a priority since the divorce. Between teaching, coaching the debate team, and being a dad to Lily on my weeks, I barely had time to do laundry, let alone meet someone. I was about to toss the invitation onto the coffee table when my phone buzzed with a text from my sister, Kate. "Did you get it? The wedding invite? Are you going?" I typed back, "Yes. Thinking about it. Lily wants to go." Her response was immediate, "You should. Show up looking amazing with a gorgeous date and show Rebecca what she's missing." I laughed despite myself. Kate had never forgiven Rebecca for the divorce, though I tried to explain that it had been mutual, two people growing in different directions until the distance between us was too great to bridge. Not exactly swimming in gorgeous date options these days, I replied. Hire someone, Kate suggested, only half joking. I put my phone down, but the idea lingered. Not hiring someone, that was absurd, but bringing someone. Walking into that wedding alone felt like admitting defeat somehow, though I couldn't articulate why. The next morning, I stopped at the coffee shop near my apartment before heading to school. It was part of my daily routine, a small luxury I allowed myself despite my tight budget. The usual, Mr. Mitchell, asked Denny, the barista who knew most of the regulars by name. Please, I said, fishing out my wallet. As I waited for my coffee, I noticed a woman sitting alone at a corner table. She wasn't doing anything particularly noteworthy, just sipping from a paper cup and staring out the window, but something about her caught my attention. Maybe it was the way she held herself, with a kind of quiet dignity despite her obviously worn clothes, or maybe it was the distant look in her eyes, as if she were seeing something beyond the busy street outside. Here you go, Denny said, sliding my coffee across the counter. Oh, and can you do me a favor? Can you tell Mia her time's up? Shop policy, 1 hour per purchase, and she's been nursing that coffee for nearly 2. I glanced back at the woman. Mia? Denny nodded. She comes in most mornings. Nice lady, but the manager's been cracking down on people camping out. I hesitated, then nodded. Sure. I approached her table, feeling awkward. Up close, I could see that her clothes weren't just worn, they were threadbare in places, though clean. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and there was a small notebook open in front of her, covered in neat handwriting. Excuse me, I said. Are you Mia? She looked up, and I was struck by her eyes, a deep, clear brown that seemed to look right through me. Yes? I'm sorry, but Denny asked me to let you know about the 1 hour policy. Understanding flickered across her face, followed by resignation. Of course. I lost track of time. She began gathering her few belongings, the notebook, a pen, a small backpack that had seen better days. I could buy you another coffee, I offered impulsively. Then you could stay longer. She studied me, wariness replacing resignation. Why would you do that? It was a fair question, and I wasn't entirely sure of the answer myself. No reason. Just being neighborly, I guess. A small smile touched her lips. Neighborly. That's nice. She hesitated, then nodded. Thank you. I'd appreciate that. I bought her another coffee and, on impulse, a blueberry muffin. When I returned to her table, she'd made space for me to sit. You don't have to stay, she said. I'm sure you have places to be. I have time, I said, checking my watch. I don't need to be at school for another half hour. You're a teacher. I nodded. High school history at Lincoln High. I'm Ethan, by the way. Ethan Mitchell. Mia Winters, she said. And thank you for the coffee and muffin. It's very kind. There was something in the careful way she broke off a small piece of the muffin that told me she was savoring it, making it last. It made me wonder when she'd last eaten. Do you live around here? I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. She took a sip of coffee before answering. Not exactly. I'm between places at the moment. The euphemism hung in the air between us. I'd worked with enough students from unstable home situations to recognize the signs. Mia was homeless. I'm sorry, I said, not knowing what else to say. She shrugged. It's temporary. I have some promising job interviews lined up. She tapped her notebook. I've been preparing. I nodded, impressed by her resilience. What kind of work do you do? I was a librarian, she said, a hint of pride in her voice. For 12 years at the public library in Burlington. Then budget cuts happened, and well. She trailed off, taking another small bite of muffin. You moved here for opportunities? Something like that. Her tone suggested there was more to the story, but I didn't press. What about you? Have you always been a teacher? No, actually. I used to work in finance. Made the switch about 5 years ago. Quite a change, she observed. What prompted it? I found myself telling her about my journey, how I'd fallen into finance because it was practical but had always loved history, how becoming a father had made me reevaluate what I wanted to model for my daughter. That's brave, Mia said when I finished. Following your passion like that. I laughed. My ex-wife called it irresponsible. Is that why she's your ex? Part of it, I admitted. We wanted different things, ultimately. Mia nodded, understanding in her eyes. Life rarely follows the path we expect, does it? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a reminder. I should get going, I said, standing reluctantly. It was nice meeting you, Mia. You too, Ethan. And thank you again. As I walked to my car, I found myself thinking about Mia, her quiet dignity, the way she spoke about her situation without self-pity. I wondered where she would go when the coffee shop closed, where she slept at night. I pushed the thoughts away as I drove to school. I had a full day of classes ahead, papers to grade, and a debate team meeting after school. I couldn't solve all the world's problems, no matter how much I might want to. The next morning, I returned to the coffee shop, half expecting to see Mia in the same corner. She wasn't there. I felt a twinge of disappointment as I ordered my coffee. Your friend was in earlier, Denny said as he handed me my drink. The lady you bought coffee for yesterday. Mia? Is she a regular? Denny nodded. Most mornings. Usually comes in right when we open and stays as long as she can. I thanked him and headed to school, telling myself it was probably for the best. Getting involved in a stranger's problems wasn't wise, no matter how intriguing I found her. But the next morning, she was there again, in the same corner seat, notebook open in front of her. She looked up as I entered, and a small smile of recognition crossed her face. Good morning, I said, stopping by her table. Good morning, Ethan, she replied. Off to shape young minds? Trying to, anyway. Some days they're more shapeable than others. She laughed, a warm sound that seemed to brighten the whole shop. I imagine teenagers can be quite resistant to shaping. You have no idea, I said, then hesitated. Can I get you anything? She started to shake her head, then seemed to reconsider. Actually, if you're offering, a coffee would be wonderful. I've been here since they opened, and I think Denny's giving me the eye. I bought her a coffee and another muffin, waving away her thanks. Consider it payment for letting me vent about my students for a few minutes before I have to face them. And so began a routine. Every morning, I'd stop by the coffee shop, buy Mia a coffee and something to eat, and we'd talk for 15 or 20 minutes before I headed to school. She never asked for anything beyond that small kindness, and I never offered more, though the question of where she went when she left the coffee shop nagged at me. I learned that she was 34, had grown up in a small town in Vermont, and had a master's degree in library science. She'd lost her apartment after losing her job, had exhausted her savings, and had come to our city because her research suggested better employment opportunities for librarians. The irony is that I need an address to put on job applications, she told me one morning, about a week into our coffee meetings. It's hard to get hired when you can't fill out that basic information. You could use mine, I offered without thinking. Just for applications. She looked startled. That's very generous. But I couldn't impose like that. It's just an address, I said, though we both knew it was more than that. It was trust, a connection, a lifeline. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Thank you. I promise I won't abuse the offer. That weekend, when Lily was with me, I mentioned my new morning routine in passing. "So you have a coffee friend?" she asked, her 8-year-old mind simplifying the complex situation. "Something like that," I said, helping her with her math homework at our small kitchen table. "Is she nice?" "Very nice. And smart. She used to be a librarian." Lily's eyes lit up. "Like Ms. Peterson at school?" "I love the library." "Yes, like Ms. Peterson," I said, smiling at her enthusiasm. "Can I meet her sometime?" The question caught me off guard. "I don't know, sweetie. She's just someone I talk to at the coffee shop." Lily gave me a look that was eerily reminiscent of her mother, slightly exasperated, as if I was missing something obvious. "But you like her, right? You smile different when you talk about her." "I smile different?" She nodded solemnly. "Like how you used to smile at Mom in the old pictures." The observation hit me like a physical blow. Had I been that transparent? And was there truth to what Lily was saying? I'd enjoyed my conversations with Mia, looked forward to them even, but I hadn't thought of them as anything more than friendly interactions. "She's just a friend," I said firmly, redirecting Lily's attention to her homework. But that night, after Lily was asleep, I found myself thinking about Mia again. About her laugh, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about books she loved, the quiet strength she showed in the face of her circumstances. And I wondered if Lily had seen something I hadn't been ready to acknowledge. The following Wednesday, I arrived at the coffee shop to find Mia looking more downcast than I'd ever seen her. She managed a weak smile when I approached, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Everything okay?" I asked, setting a coffee in front of her. She sighed. "Not really. The shelter I've been staying at is closing for renovations. They're trying to place everyone, but there aren't enough beds in the other shelters." It was the first time she'd explicitly mentioned her living situation, and I felt a surge of admiration for her courage in sharing it with me. "When do you have to leave?" "Friday," she said, staring into her coffee. "I've been calling around, but everywhere's full. I might have to." She trailed off, but I could fill in the blank. She might have to sleep on the streets. The thought made my stomach clench. "What about a hotel? Just until you find something else?" She gave me a look that was both grateful and realistic. "On what money, Ethan? I've been stretching my last $50 for weeks." I hesitated, then made a decision that would change both our lives. "I have a spare room." Mia's eyes widened. "What?" "I have a spare room," I repeated. "It's small, really just an office with a futon, but it's yours if you need it. Just until you find something else." She shook her head immediately. "I couldn't possibly." "Why not?" "It's sitting empty. Lily stays in her own room when she's with me." "Because it's too much," she said firmly. "Coffee and muffins are one thing. Letting a virtual stranger live in your home is quite another." "Are we strangers, though?" I asked quietly. "After all our talks?" She looked at me for a long moment, conflict clear in her eyes. "You have a daughter to think about." "I do," I agreed. "And I'd never do anything to put her at risk. But I also want to teach her about helping others when you can. About compassion." Mia was silent, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Finally, she spoke. "It would only be temporary. Just until I find something else or get a job." "Of course. And I'd help with chores."